Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wacky Wednesdays with Miss Angela. Today, we are doing some kitchen chemistry. And for this experiment, I highly recommend having a grown-up around because there's going to be some cutting and it's better to have a grown-up do that or at least help you do that. What we are doing today is we are making volcanoes out of apples. So this is the part where it's really important to have a grown-up because you're going to need to make 2 apples that look like this. And basically all I did here is I dug the core out and I made just kind of cavern in the apple. You need 2 apples like this because what we are doing today is we're going to make volcanoes, but we're going to make them in 2 different ways and see which one has the greater reaction. So you'll need 2 apples like this, and you're going to want to mark the apples in some way, maybe put a 1 on the one and a 2 on the other, just so that you can tell them apart. The other things that you will need for this experiment are some baking soda, some white vinegar, a measuring cup, something with a spout for pouring, and some measuring spoons. I also highly recommend, I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, but I have a cookie sheet that I'm doing it on. So parents, this is not an incredibly messy experiment, but if you are concerned and if it's a nice day outside, please feel free to go outside. I use a cookie sheet and really it stays contained in the cookie sheet. So before you start your experiment, what we are going to do is we are going to make a prediction as to which apple volcano is going to have the bigger eruption. So for one of the apples, we're going to say number 1 in this case, you're going to put baking soda in first and then add the vinegar. For the other apple, you are going to put the vinegar in first and then add the baking soda. And this is where those measuring tools come in handy because you want to try to put the same amount of baking soda and vinegar in each apple so you have more of a scientifically valid experiment here. So you're comparing the same things. But before you do any pouring or any measuring, what you want to do is you want to make a prediction. Is apple 1 going to have the bigger explosion, if you will? It's not really an explosion. The bigger reaction, or is apple 2 going to have the bigger reaction? So you're going to make your prediction, and then you're going to carefully measure your ingredients and do your experiment. So what we are doing here is we're making a hypothesis. And if you don't know what a hypothesis is, it's basically an educated guess as to what your experiment is what's going to happen in your experiment and what's going to be the result. So the very first thing, once you've made your prediction, the very first thing you want to do is you want to measure out some baking soda in apple number 1. And you may use a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, you may use a tablespoon, as long as you're using the same amount of baking soda in each apple. I will tell you, the more baking soda you use, the bigger your reaction is going to be. That's my only hint as to how this is going to turn out. So first you're going to measure your baking soda and put it into apple number 1. And then you're going to, again, use your liquid measuring cup, measure some vinegar, and put that amount, keep track of how much you put in, pour that over top of the baking soda. Take a look, see what the reaction is. Then, once you've done that, you're going to take your second apple, apple number 2, and you're going to pour the same amount of vinegar in that apple. And then you're going to add the same amount of baking soda into that apple as well and observe what that reaction is. So this is where you're going to see one of the apples is going to have a bigger reaction. If you look at the picture in this post, this is when I did it with my own kids, and this is what happened. That's the results of our experiment. I'm not going to tell you which apple was which, but you can clearly see one of them had a bigger reaction. I would love to see pictures of your experiment and see how it turns out. So have fun with this. It's a lot of fun. It's a quick experiment, and I would love to hear how yours turned out. See you later.